Hello, Facebook fans and my friends. This is Pastor Booker. I'm sure you've seen my face quite a bit on there. I just wanted to spend just a few moments today with some of our friends concerning something that's on my heart deeply, and that is the first anniversary of the Harvey flooding that happened last year, August 17th, and it's 1 year. And I've had some emotional feelings about it. I noticed around about the first of the week, there was an appreciation for a well-deserving church, and they were well-deserving of it, let me say that. But it also caught my mind when I thought about there was a lot of other churches that will never get any recognition, as we said, they were under the radar, that did great work for the community where they were. And I just wanted to take this time with whatever privilege I have. I'm a nobody, but I do want to do this for all of our pastors that I personally know that has done great work and did great work during the Harvey incident flooding. And some people never know them, but they gave their hearts out. And I just want to say thank you. All the pastors that may not have a big budget, but thank you. You know, it's something that I thought about that was important, that sometimes we may not have the same resources that other churches may have, but you can have the same sacrifices. And I may not have the millions to help, but you do what you can do. And I can't forget great men who were able to do much, Mattis Mack and J.J. Watts and Pastor Osteen. They are well deserving. Yes. And as you know, since 1 year, I must say again that they're deserving, but there are others that we need to recognize that will never be on Fox, will never be talked about, that did great work. And there were men, there were pastors that I know that housed some of the families in that church. Budget low, didn't have a budget, but they had a mind to help. Yes. And I think God keeps record. He keeps good record of those. So I want to take this first year to just say a few words. Thank you, pastors. Thank you. Not only black pastors, but Hispanic and all ethnicity. We want to thank each one for the work you did. You may not hear about your name, but I want to let you know that I tell Greater St. Matthew, and I have a couple with me, God keeps record. Yeah. And he knows the work you've done. So my hat's off to pastors and churches who did a great work, low budget, but great sacrifice. And I'm so happy to have around me people who experienced this, what I'm talking about. And there's some pictures we're going to flash up to give evidence some of the things we've done. Our church has done quite a bit, but it's not about Pastor Booker, it's not about Greater St. Matthew only, but it's about others. I have with me another leading pastor of our community, Pastor A.J. Jones, who's come, and he's pastor of Cullen Baptist Church. There are other pastors who are to be here, but we must go on because God wants us to do this. But I just want to welcome him with our group. And if you could just tell us some of the things that your church did during that time.
Well, Pastor Booker, first of all, I want to say thank you for allowing this to happen. I thank God for laying it on your heart and for you, just kind of taking the lead to call some attention to the pastors that were under the radar. When Harvey hit, nobody planned for it. We didn't expect it to be that way. But thank God people responded after things happened. So we were one of the locations that we didn't have a whole lot of people, but we had folks that were sending us resources from out of the state. We had 18-wheelers that were coming from California. And what we would do is we would find out who needed what in our area, and we would get that off the 18-wheeler, but we would also call ahead to other smaller churches. And I'd like to shout out Pastor Henry Price of the First Missionary Baptist Church of Houston, because we made sure that they had some of the things that they needed. And once they got what they needed, they would call ahead to another church, like Pastor Max Miller and the good folks over at his church. So folks knew that we had to work on this thing together.
Yeah.
And when we weren't sending 18-wheelers to different churches, we partnered with the Houston Food Bank, and they brought trucks by that had diapers and cleaning supplies. And then a couple times they even sent meat trucks around so families could really get what they needed because, you know, the power was out and things like that. So they were able to try and go on as best they could to feed their families. And then we started partnering with some other churches. And I'm glad you said not just the black pastors, but some other churches. I want to highlight the New Life Church up off of Hammerly, and First Lady Mary Kemp, because she would call us with trucks that had food on them and say, okay, what do you need for the people in your area to get food? And this was hot cooked food.
Right.
And we didn't want that to go to waste, so we called around and we found out the Salvation Army had a whole bunch of people, more people than they had food, so we were able to connect those two together. So it all worked together because we worked together.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
You know, I always say, and Stephanie and Junior can tell, can witness this, in our stewardship giving, I have a theme that says, not equal amount,
Yes, sir.
but equal sacrifice.
Yes, sir.
And this is what I'm trying to reach out and say, thank you, pastors. You didn't have the equal amount that some churches had high budgets, but you had equal sacrifice. We may not call your name, but God knows your record. Now, I have with me some of my lieutenants who really were on the ground. They said old man for counsel and the young ladies and men for war. Stephanie, I want to introduce Stephanie. Facebook don't know Stephanie, but our church knows Stephanie. Stephanie is over our women's ministry, and she's done a great work with our women's ministry.
Yes.
And every day she would take off her job and work like a man. She did many things, and she was on the ground. She had touch that I didn't have. And tell us something about the experience, Stephanie.
The initial, I guess, request for us to come out and support the community came from Pastor. Pastor asked me to meet him at the church. This was almost immediately after the water started receding, and we connected, and I asked him, what do you need? He said, meet me at the church. We're going to meet with myself and Gusta Jr. And talk about what we can do as a church. So that's what we did. I reached out to a team of people that I know I can always count on to come out, volunteer, work from beginning to end, and that's what I did. I texted them simply, we're going to meet about the disaster recovery. Please meet me at the church, 10 o'clock a.m. the next morning, and I had about 20 people ready to go. That's the kind of support that Greater St. Matthew gives. You can call them on a dime and they are there ready to go. From that, the team continued to build. We came out, we kind of laid the groundwork for what we were going to provide. That plan got far exceeded by what actually happened at Greater St. Matthew. Just as Pastor Jones talked about, all the connections started coming in. People started calling. We started partnering with other organizations, and it just amounted to something amazing. On a daily basis, we came out. We had to do setup. We had to organize. We wanted to make sure that we captured enough information about who we were serving, the demographics of people that we were serving, you know, the types of things that we were serving in the community. And as we began to overflow with things that were being given to us, we started to make sure that we then turned around and made sure that the other churches and organizations had what they needed. I think we served close to 500 people that came through the doors on a continual basis because we saw some of those same faces over and over again. We did not turn them away. We made sure that we met their needs and to make sure that they had everything they need. Cleaning supplies was in huge demand because, of course, we're talking about homes that were flooded. So we were getting those things in. We were calling out to stores everywhere else. Can we get bleach? Can we get mops? Can we get brooms? Can we get, you know, bedding? Bedding was a huge demand for the community. So those things began to come in, and we were so appreciative. The team of people we had, I just want to say thank you if you're listening. You guys were amazing.
Yeah,
You did
yeah.
more than your share
Yeah.
of the work. We worked from the end of August all the way through to the second week in December.
Wow.
That team was in place and standing ready for whenever we called out to them. And Pastor, I just want to say thank you
Yes.
for allowing us at Greater St. Matthew to be used the way that we were used during that time.
Yeah.
Yes, we appreciate it.
Thank you, Stephanie. Let me just say this. I don't want to overtake this, and please, I'm trying not to let this become a Greater St. Matthew issue. We want all the pastors to know you're part of this. You're not on this Facebook, but God knows where you are. And I want to thank you. Pastor calls the name. I could call his name. Reverend Thompson, Pastor's First Baptist Church in the north side. He took care of the north side in a beautiful way. I saw it with my eyes, and I witnessed the job that he did over there. He may not ever hear about his name,
Right.
but God keeps record.
Yes.
And I just want to say this because I hear a lot of negativism and everything. My agenda is nothing negative about anybody, nothing envious. But I just think that appreciation ought to go a little farther. If I want to thank God for the food, I want to thank God for the cook.
Amen.
Yeah.
That's all I'm trying to do. So I have no other agenda
Yes, sir.
about this. Pastor Jones, when did your service start after it happened? How did you become involved?
Well, interestingly enough, for me, I was way out in Katy because that's where I live. So I'm making calls to the folks that were in the area and say, hey, what are we looking at like over there? And they, when they told me that, hey, Pastor, you just stay where you are, you're probably not going to be able to get in here. I like most people, I can't just sit here and do nothing. So that's when I started making calls to family and friends and different pastors that I met along the way outside the state and say, hey, I don't know what we need, but just load up everything you would think we would need at a time like this and give me an idea of where it would be. So similar to you all, we started making calls almost as soon as it was over. As soon as that next day, we did an assessment of the church to see what we could do at the facility, and then we started, regulating where things were going to go. And then we started connecting with other churches and other pastors. And one name that I want to call on Northside, because you brought, is Pastor E.A. Deckard at Greenhouse Lighthouse International. And they had a whole lot of people in their facility that ended up going over to Greens Point Mall once that opened up as a shelter. So we tried to make sure they had clothes. We tried to make sure that they had food. Anything we had that was not being used in our area, we tried to get it somewhere where we knew it was. So
Brings us closer. We hate it has to be that. Funerals bring people close. Look like niggerism bring close, but that's all right.
Right.
It brings us closer and let us know that we are brothers and sisters.
Right.
And that's all that we want to do as we kind of wrap this up. I want to thank Pastor A.J. Jones. Pastor, tell us about your location, your church, and the name.
We're Cullen Missionary Baptist Church. We're right on the corner of Cullen and Alameda, Genoa. And similar to what's already been said, we've been trying to be a kingdom resource to our community. Today, we're out just thanking people for allowing us to be in the community for 41 years. And Pastor, if I could say one more thing, as we're honoring pastors today, I want to also honor their members, because it wasn't like it's us doing this versus what y'all are doing. I know when it was going on, there were people that were coordinating rescues via Facebook and via phone and different apps and things like that. And it didn't matter whose member it was. If somebody was in that area and they knew people needed to be rescued out, I saw a lot of folks on social media trying to make sure that people got safe.
That's right.
And we give God the glory for that, because that's what the kingdom is all about. We worship in the building, but we are the church.
Yes.
And the church was active during that day. And I thank God for allowing us to be his hands and feet.
Thank you.
Yes.
Because it's not who's doing it, but that it gets done.
It gets done.
And we got a lot done at that time. And I just want to thank God for you, Pastor.
Bless you, sir.
And I want to thank God for the other pastors are not here with us,
Yes.
but you're here with us in the spirit.
Yeah.
And we want to let you know that on this first anniversary, we honor you.
Yes.
Yeah.
We honor you
Yes.
for the work that you've done. Now, we know, as Pastor said, members did the work.
Yes, sir.
Because I'm kind of old now, and the Bible said the older ones are for counsel and the young folks for war. So our members have to get the war done under leg work. But we thank God for the members of our church,
Yes.
as you stated for that.
Yes.
And as I said earlier, the agenda for this is to just show appreciation to those that may not make it on television,
Yes, sir.
Right.
may not get in the news, but God keeps record.
right. Yes.
So God bless you, Brother Pastor. We say pastor because when we talk about pastor, it takes care of all of the others.
Yes.
So when we say pastor, we talk about members and the church. So love one another. God bless you. And let's pray that God will bless America.